Hey everyone, I just wanted to share with you a collage I did tonight. I wasn't feeling too well today, but I wanted to do some more art, and I had some pieces that I'd done painted backgrounds before and put them on adhesive. So you can cut them out and use them for collage a lot easier. Picked up that technique from a class I had taken online, and these were the paint palettes from the watercolor kit that I had been using that I showed you guys in one of the other videos. I think it was one of my first ones for Coffee and Journal, where I didn't have any music and I was just talking. But I wanted to cover up that page that I kind of flubbed on this morning, and decided to go ahead and use these. I liked some of the colors, and it's hard trying to choose which pieces to cut, which pieces to save, but I try to keep things big enough to where I can reuse them. So the next part is peeling off the backing for the adhesive, and it's really tricky to do it because it sticks to everything. It's the only downside, but it's really thin with the napkins, so I kind of have to start a corner and then just gently lay it down. Make sure I don't pull it apart. But this is a really handy way to do this, and it's the same adhesive as if you've ever used a Xyron machine for the little sticker makers. It's the same sticky stuff, and you know what I'm talking about when it just sticks to everything. So when you trim these, you actually have to trim where you're carving off just a little bit of your artwork so that you're not getting your scissors directly on the adhesive, because it just goes everywhere. And that little line, I found out the napkin had kind of doubled over, so I just took some Elmer's and put that in there to kind of tie it down. And Elmer's, if you didn't know this, is actually the same thing as PVA, which is used for bookbinding. It's just the PVA is kind of an industrial version, but I've used it for bookbinding repair and stuff before and haven't had any issue with it. And it's a lot less expensive than the PVA. This piece, again, I was trying to figure out where to cut it, so I saved a big chunk of it and decided to go ahead and do leaves out of this. There's one part that looked like a flower, so that's kind of what got me on that train of thought. And I try to snug shapes up into each other so that I'm not being wasteful with the rest of the paper. And I like drawing with the scissors. It's just a lot of times I won't draw stuff first, I'll just cut it out. Kind of a wonky tulip. Now the white I wanted to use, but it didn't seem like it was going to work, like it was going to blend too much, so I decided to hold off on it. And then I remembered I had the strips from the rice paper. Now the rice paper lends itself really well to this, but painting, if you get too much water on it, it does tend to fall apart. So in hindsight, I probably won't do the rice paper again as far as the painting. Like I said, you got to be careful with it curling. It sticks to itself, and if it sticks, forget it, it's gone. And I just eye it. I don't want it completely up against the lines. I want it to be kind of wonky and organic looking. So I won't use straight edges or ruler or blue pencil or anything first. The leaves, and being able to do this without pulling the back of the sticker off yet, and just lay your stuff out composition wise, worked really well. That's one of the things I like about this. I kind of saw a leaf shape in this. Sorry, I can't talk tonight. I'm really tired. Um, I saw a leaf shape, but I wasn't completely convinced that that was going to work for this composition. And I thought about trimming it, but I liked the paint pattern too much, so I decided against it and just went back to my original idea. And again, just being really careful with the napkins and how thin they are. They make a really nice texture though, and I really like being able to upcycle something into something new. And I'm always drawing on top of things, so I really wanted this to be part drawn, part collage. I wasn't going to try and do paint again. I already had the acrylic paint on the rice paper and the watercolor on the napkin. So I have plenty of color. I didn't need to do any more, and I really wanted to preserve some of the white space. That one scared me because I was worried that the tips were going to come off. So I had to go really slow. And it bunched up a little bit on one of the edges, but it actually worked out fine. And again, I decided I was going to go ahead and draw the stem on there. And I had wanted it to overlap the frame a little bit, but when I actually laid it down, it didn't work out. And I do like the end result better anyway. With the really fine tips on the blades of grass and on the petals, I was worried I was going to lose the tip, so I had to be real careful. There was still a little piece sticking up there, so I went ahead and glued it down. I had thought about tucking the other piece underneath it, but I really wanted to just butt the edges up against each other. With the napkin being so thin, it would have showed through, and I didn't want the conflict of the shapes. Thankfully, this stuff is repositionable to an extent. Once you push it down, it's down, but you can kind of move it around just a little bit. Not much, it's not very forgiving. And it's the 3M brand repositionable adhesive. And it comes in a big roll. And then I have my rubber stamps. I really like the Tim Holtz distressed inks. And I had a rubber stamp made up a while back with my logo on it. And with the rubber stamp pads, you always want to store them face down so that the ink is always in the top of the pad. I used to work in a rubber stamp store back years and years and years ago, right out of high school, when I first moved back down to Florida. I used to get paid to play. I've always wanted to have my own rubber stamped line. That may actually happen at some point. Now I went in with the 005 micron, and it didn't really stand out very well. It's the 0.20 millimeter. So I ended up switching to the 03, which is a 0.35 millimeter. And going back over some of the lines just so it would stand out. And I didn't want to add a border, but I did want to add some accent to draw your eye to it. I really like how the larger, thicker blade of grass came out, just the way it's painted. What I ended up doing is I went back in and did a few accents, my earthworm and some dots. And then I did an overlay with the white. And I really wanted to tie in the orange that was up top. And then I added some poetry. Hope you enjoyed it.